Welcome to God's 5 Minutes with Pastor Ed Wilson. Reach him at gods5minutes@gmail.com. Now, here's Ed Wilson with God's 5 Minutes.
Hello, friends. It fell a lot of Haggai the prophet to speak to the Hebrew nation following their return from Babylonian bondage. The people had started enthusiastically on the task of rebuilding the temple, but there had been setbacks and disappointments. As time passed, the willingness ebbed and people became more caught up in the work of providing living quarters and necessary provisions in a war-ravaged land. God wasn't pleased. Thus Haggai told his fellows, "Ye have sown much and bring in little. Ye eat, but ye have not enough. Ye drink, but ye are not filled with drink. Ye clothe you, but there is none warm, and he that earneth wages to put it into a bag with holes. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, consider your ways." In a manner that has plagued humankind since time immemorial, when great national projects have been undertaken, personal comfort, the things that go with home and family, greed of gain, all the ignoble things that affect people after the first magnanimous impulse begins to fade, come into play. The first effort was launched amid high hopes and honest zeal, but by degrees the hopes faded and became nothing more than dreams of something that might happen in the distant future. These people, who had so fondly longed for their homeland with its unique religious system and personal God, came to think more of settling on the land than of rebuilding the temple. They were not less clever than us, and no doubt they cloaked their selfishness under the guise of duty. People have to live. We must take care of our families. It's not wisdom to build a temple when we don't have homes. We mean to build it when we can, but we are practical people and must provide for our wants first. Human wisdom turned out to be folly, as it generally does. There came, as Haggai tells us, a season of distress, when the harvest for which had sacrificed their duties and their calling failed, despite their prudence and diligence, or rather because they had selfishly exercised such seeming prudence and diligence on the wrong things. They were poor and hungry. The heavens over them were stayed from dew, and the earth from yielding its harvest. Haggai came next, the messenger from God, to interpret the reason for the calamity and to rekindle the holy fire that had once urged them in the right direction. To read his rebuke is to think of those the Lord described in his parable of the marriage of the king's son. One has bought some land and must go see about it. Another 5 yoke of oxen must go to prove them. All the earthly things that a carnal mind living under the devil's persuasions can invent to interfere with the truly important things of life. The true temple the Lord wants to build today is not made of massive stones and cedars of Lebanon. It is the inner temple of our hearts, and building it does not require lifting heavy loads or long hours in the hot Jerusalem sun. In reality, those who make physical buildings the primary focus of their lives are rebuilding Babel's tower, which never approached completion and brought only scattering and confusion. Today, that life scatters and confuses homes and families. It cannot produce fruit that satisfies the soul. That is what Haggai saw coming to pass from the efforts of the people he loved, and it hurt. This was so because the sowing and building had been without God. That is forever the law and curse of godless toil, with its pitiful harvest of weeds and emptiness, mingled with its few withered kernels of grain. One of life's greatest tragedies so often is the contrast between what a person plans for his life when it began and what he actually accomplishes. Haggai did not leave his countrymen without an answer. To be in trouble and disfavor with God today may not mean an eternal sentence. He told people to consider their ways. Their situation could be mended. The temple could be and was rebuilt. It's so with you and me. If we have failed, God help us rise up again, change the focus of our lives, stop thinking so much about fields and reaping and harvest, money and value, and build in our hearts a dwelling place for Him. And have you talked to Him today?
You have been listening to God's 5 Minutes with Pastor Ed Wilson. Reach him by email at godsfive minutes@gmail.com. Tune in next time to hear more encouraging thoughts from God's Word on God's 5 Minutes with Pastor Ed Wilson.